We thank you again for allowing us to return safely to the house of prayer. So, God, we come now, we lift you up. We glorify your name. Then, God, we thank you, God, for this assembly, God. We pray now, God, that something will be said that will help each of us, that will bless each of us, that will help us, God, to continue to look to you, for we know that you are the author and finisher of our faith. Bless now our speaker. Then, God, open our ears to receive, God, to hear, and our hearts to receive what is being said. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good morning. So this morning we're going to have a presentation for Dr. Mia Wilson. She's a licensed mental health counselor and has her own practice for 26 years called Sanofa Behavioral Health Care. So I know some people may not want to ask questions, so towards the end when we have time for questions, if you don't want to stand up and say your question, just write it on a piece of paper and one of the ladies with the pink shirts will come around and take it so you can be anonymous. So right now I introduce Dr. Mia Wilson.
Okay, good morning, Abyssinia. Oh, come on, Abyssinia. It's not that bad, is it? Good morning, Abyssinia. Hey, good morning. All right, just a little bit about myself, because I know some people may not know me. Some people are like, where you been? But I'm Dr. Mia Wilson. I'm a licensed mental health counselor for the state of Florida and actually Georgia as well. I'm also a certified addiction professional and a certified traumatologist. So I work with any type of trauma you can possibly think of. And just like thank you for that introduction, Sheila, by the way. Yeah, I've been in the field for 26 years. Can you believe it? You know, when God bless you with a talent, it just kind of like, this was not my original career, but you know, when God bless you with a talent, it's not a job. It's, you know, he's like, man, do I get paid for this? But it's one of my passions, and I know this is a really tough subject. I know we have a lot of stigma behind mental health, but this is May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so it's important that we not only recognize our spiritual self, our physical self, but also our mental health is very important. Mental health is part of our health, and so it's very important. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and I'm gonna kind of not zip through it, but I'm gonna zip through it so that we can open the floors for questions and answers, okay? All right, let's see if I make sure I get this right. All right. Oh. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna start off by talking about Jack and Hank. Now some people can probably recognize this, Jack and Hank. So Jack and Hank, they're best friends. And both of them are a member of the BMW Club, or Black Men Walking. So every Saturday morning, they meet as part of this informal group. And they not only walk, they talk. They talk a lot, almost nonstop. So what do they talk about? Well, Hank is going through some serious marital problem, and Jack is feeling the stress of paying for 2 college tuitions, a mortgage, a car loan, entertainment, and more. But none of this comes up. Also, neither has said so, but they both have high blood pressure and are both borderline diabetic. And one of them suffers from symptoms of depression and anxiety. How could they not know all of this about each other? So when one asks the other, hey, what's going on? The other always responds, great, fantastic, or I'm good. And then they move on to their favorite topic, sports, cars, TV, work, more sports, larger TVs, and other safe subjects. Jack and Hank do not talk about what's really going on with them. Rarely do they talk about their health. They practically never talk about feelings or their sources of insecurity. Jack and Hank suffer from what we call the tough guy syndrome. Okay, let's move on to Sister Sally. All right, Sister Sally. So Sister Sally is a 62-year-old devoted church-going female who is very involved in several church ministries. She always have a smile on her face. And when you ask that traditional question, "Hey, Sister Sally, how are you doing?" She always put a smile on her face and she said, "I'm fine." Behind that smile, little does anyone know, Sister Sally is dealing with financial strains. She's living paycheck to paycheck, has not spoken with her adult children in over a year. She cries herself to sleep every night, and she feels immense loneliness even around other people. And on occasion, she has thought about suicide, but have not made any plans. Sister Sally suffered from what we call the smiling depression. I'm depressed on the inside, but I wear a mask and a smiley face on the outside, and nobody will ever know. Okay. All right, so let's talk about some key findings that is in 2023. I don't know, next. Okay, here we go. So 1 out of 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. So how many people we have in here? Okay, so 1 out of 5 of us will suffer from some kind of mental illness. Now remember, mental illness is just like our physical illness. It can be anywhere from a common cold all the way to something very severe. Mental health goes the same way. For anything, it could be I'm stressed, all the way to I have bipolar, or I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I can't get this to go. Okay, next. Okay, thank you. 1 in 20 U.S. adults experience serious mental illness each year. So those are your severe anxiety, severe depression. It could be bipolar. It could be schizophrenia. Next. Okay. And 1 in 6 U.S. youth age 6 to 17, age 6, experience a mental health disorder each year. So when we say, what you gotta be depressed about? You're only 6 years old. Oh, it's real. It's real. Next, 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins at age 14, and 75% by age 24. And then next, suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 14. So this is in today's time. This is real. All right, next. Emergency room visits by young people aged 6 to 24 for mental health related issues roughly doubled from 2011 to 2020, including a 5-fold increase of suicide related visits. And this is according to the Journal of American Medical Association, and this was reported May 1st, 2023. Okay, next. The Center of Disease Control and Prevention reported that U.S. overdose death rate from fentanyl nearly quadrupled from 2016 to 2021. All right, next. Okay, Duval, let's bring it on home, right? In 2021, next, in just 1 year, there were 10,573 people who were hospitalized for mental health issues in 1 year. Next, and 1,452 of those hospitalizations were persons under 18. Okay, next. Over 1 out of 4 middle school students in Duval County seriously thought about committing suicide. So you're talking about middle schoolers, so that's what age 11, 12 to 14, 13, 14, okay? And next. All right. Almost 1 out of 3 Duval County high school students felt sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 or more weeks in a row, according to the Florida Department of Health. And our hotline, we had over 600 calls from middle schoolers and high schoolers. Okay, next. So what is us therapists around the country hearing from our patients? When I said I was busy during the pandemic, I was busy. And so a lot of times, most of it, next, was general anxiety and depression was the most common reasons why patients would seek support. Next, 1 out of 4 providers said suicide thoughts were amongst the top reasons clients were seeking therapy. Next, grief and loss was huge and still is very prevalent, and not just a loss of a loved one, a loss of a job, a loss of a lifestyle, a loss of ... Next, financial stress was huge. Next, substance use. Next, job worries. And then next, trauma and unresolved childhood traumas. So during 2020, when we had the pandemic and you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do, and we're gonna talk about those self-soothing behaviors, and we were kind of like isolated, you know, we had to kind of sit, and we weren't used to that, especially if you weren't used to that, and so all of those things we've been running from start surfacing or manifesting itself. All right, next. There was a general feeling of being stuck in life and stagnated, and even now. And so we call that the waiting room. I'm not going forward in my life, but I'm not going back in my life. I'm just here, and I'm just feel stuck. All right, next. A lot of couples started struggling. And next, children's mental health issues are intensifying in the form of anger, difficulty with socializing, communicating with each other face to face, and a lot of depression started surfacing. All right, next. So we're gonna talk about depression, and that's the other pandemic, and that's the one that is keep going on, and it's still increasing. And so 5 things you should know about depression. Next. Depression is a real medical condition. Next, it's a common but serious mood disorder. Next, depression symptoms can interfere with your ability to work, sleep, study, eat, and enjoy your life. So some people, they have a rough time getting out of bed. Now, sometimes we can have a rough time getting out of bed, but this goes on every day, continuously. And I go to work and I'm struggling. You know, I struggle to concentrate. I struggle to focus. I'm at home. It's hard for me to do any housework. And my home starts reflecting what is going on in my head. Okay? And I'm having a really hard time enjoying things that I used to enjoy. All right? Next. Depression is not one of those things you can just snap out of. Okay? Will we have depression in our life? Yes, but when it becomes problematic, it starts interfering in our life, and we cannot just snap out of it. Next, so a lot of times friends and family members may try to tell someone with depression to just, why don't you just snap out of it, or just be positive, or you can be happier if you just try harder. But depression is not a sign of a person's weakness or character flaws. It doesn't mean that you're weak in your faith. And I know that is a long-term myth that's been going on. It is a real medical condition, just like you can't just snap out of having diabetes. So it's the same exact thing, except for it's just in mental health. All right, next. Some of the causes of depression is environmental, so it can be stressful life events. If I'm in stressful life relationship, I'm living from paycheck to paycheck, I'm feeling abused, trauma, it can increase the likelihood of depression. I'm not happy at my job, and so staying in these kind of situations, these stressful life situations, can cause depression and anxiety. Next. It could be genetic, so if you have it in your family, somewhere in your family tree, it can be genetic. And so there's a big link between genetics and mental health. Next, biological, physical changes. You know, our hormones can play a big role in depression, and certain medications one of the side effects can be depression. And medical conditions can also increase chances of depression. So there's a huge correlation between diabetes, lupus, MS, high blood pressure, and depression. Next, psychological, the way that you approach certain situations can make you vulnerable to depression. So if I'm pessimistic, everything can be great, but the one little negative thing, that's all I focus on, or what we call stinking thinking. We can be prone to be getting upset easily, lose patience quickly, and you might likely to have depression. Next, women can also get postpartum depression after giving birth. Some people can get seasonal affective disorder. Mostly it occurs in the winter, and there's a few people when it's summertime, they can have it. And then depression is just one piece of bipolar disorder. All right, next. Depression can hurt literally. So sadness is only a small part of depression, and some people with depression may not feel sad at all. So next, a person with depression may also experience many physical symptoms. So we have these unexplained aches and pains. Now, my knees are hurting right now, but I did some line dancing, so I know why. But for some people, they wake up and be like, oh my God, my body just hurts. I have headaches, I have cramps, I have digestive problems, so I'm either constipated or having diarrhea or both. Someone with depression may also have trouble sleeping, waking up in the morning, and they just feel exhausted all throughout the day. So if you have been experiencing any of the following signs for at least 2 weeks, you may be suffering from depression. Next slide. And those signs are, we're gonna rip through them. The common ones include feeling of loneliness or sadness, lack of energy, feeling of hopelessness, feeling of guilt and worthlessness, unusual sleep schedule. So I'm either sleeping a lot or not sleeping not enough. Unusual eating habits. Sometimes we eat our feelings, and sometimes we just don't have an appetite at all. Difficulty concentrating or focusing. Some people would describe it like a fog in my brain. You know, like I just got foggy brain, I cannot focus. And then thoughts of suicide or death. Depression can be treated. Next, even the most severe cases of depression can be treated. It's commonly treated with medication. I know a lot of my clients be like, I want to be on that medication. Well, we have psychotherapy, which is also called talk therapy, or a combination of two. Next, antidepressants are medications commonly used to treat depression. People respond differently to antidepressants, so you may have to try different medications to find the one that works, especially if I'm having a chemical imbalance that's causing my depression. Next, and then there's different types of psychotherapy, such as cognitive behavior therapy or interpersonal therapy, and that's just two, but there's many more. And then next, depression affects each individual differently, and there's no one-size-fits-all for treatment. All right, next. So some of us would do this, what we call these self-soothing behaviors. Next. And so this is our way of kind of coping with our depression or anxiety, but not necessarily as effective. So I might just watch TV all day. I don't have energy to do anything else. I don't have an interest to do anything else. Next. Some of us will eat our feelings. Now, we're going to want something that's sweet or something that's salty. I don't know anybody that said, oh my God, I am so depressed, I want a carrot stick. All right? So some of us, it comes from old school when we were little, because sometimes I might just be feeling hurt. You know, I don't want to be depressed, and I have a lot of things going on. And so, you know, sometimes when we were little and we run and we fall and we skin our knee, And I said, oh, we come back to our caregiving, like, oh my gosh, I skinned my knee. And they said, oh, you poor thing. And they clean you up, and what do they give you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, here you go, to make you feel better. Yeah, here a cookie, or some brownies, or some banana pudding. Everything's sweet, right? So when we grow up and I'm feeling emotionally hurt, yeah, I'm going to start emulating the same behavior. All right, next. Some of us will work. We will extend work hours. We will work ourselves so I don't have to think about it. And so we work these extremely long hours, or I get multiple jobs. Next. And some of us will try to just sleep it away. So I may come home and I'll be like, everybody good? Okay. And I go straight to the bedroom and I go to sleep. And I try to sleep it away. Next. The other one is retail therapy. So I have a lot of my clients like, when I don't feel well, I'm feeling depressed or down, I'll just go shop. Now, online shopping don't close, it's 24/7. So we can always jump on that, and Amazon be your BFF, right? So, we try, but afterwards, it's a great little high in the moment, but then what happens after you come home with all those shopping bags? The thrill is over. And then next, just keeping it real, some of us will try to drink it away or drug it away. Okay? All right, next. The U.S. Surgeon General just put out citing loneliness as a serious mental health hazard, and it just came out. And there's an epidemic of loneliness and isolation that has been unappreciated and is causing a public health crisis. So in fact, it's creating premature death by 26%. And they had a survey that found out that half of US adults experience loneliness. Now, I can be in a room full of people and still feel lonely and disconnected, okay? All right, next. And this, more people of color are seeking support. More people of color are coming to counseling, okay? Next, racial justice issues as a top reason that clients were seeking therapy. People of color was reaching out following the murder of George Floyd and anti-Asian hate crimes amongst other issues. Next, the interest in therapy has also increased after Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka spoke openly about their own mental health struggles in the sports world. Next, and then there was a dramatic increase in requests for mental health services from Asian Americans, which is sad because it was their reaction to the xenophobia and assault we have witnessed over in the past year and a half. Okay, next. All right, even famous people deal with depression. Next. Anybody recognize him? Yeah, Jay-Z. Yes. And so Jay-Z said the strongest thing a man can do is cry, to expose your feelings, to be vulnerable in front of the world. This is real strength. You feel like you gotta be this guarded person, and that's not real, it's fake. So he deals with depression. Next one, his wife, Beyonce. And so Beyonce said that in real life, she is shy and vulnerable, and she suffered a bout of depression when her former group, Destiny Child, was disbanded. She said, I didn't eat, I stayed in my room, and I was in a really bad place in life, going through that lonely period. Who am I? Who are my friends? My life changed. And she still kind of suffers from depression from time to time. Okay, next. Wayne Brady. So people may recognize him from Let's Make a Deal. And he was also on some other television shows as well. So Wayne Brady said, it's difficult for men in general. I think because of the way we were raised. We feel any of the negative emotions or that dark cloud settle on you, and you feel like you need to cry it out or to speak to someone about it. And nope, I'm not gonna do that because I'm a man. What kind of man would I sound like if I told someone, hey, I'm so sad, I'm cripplingly sad, I can't get out of bed, I just feel empty, help me. I'll be seen as some sissy. I'll be soft. That's what you're taught. That's how we were programmed. And that's what kills us. Next. Taraji Henson. You probably recognize her from TV and a lot of movies. And she says she suffers from depression. And she turns to a therapist when she needs help. This is the only way I can get through it. You can talk to your friends, but you need a professional who can give you exercises. Next. Serena Williams. Next one. Oh, there we go. Serena Williams. Not only was I accepting some tough personal stuff, but I was just in a funk. Mostly I felt like I was not a good mom. I read several articles that said postpartum emotions can last up to 3 years if not dealt with. I like communication best. Talking things through with my mom, my sisters, my friends let me know that my feelings are totally normal. It's totally normal to feel like I'm not doing enough for my baby. We've all been there. Next. And then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So you probably recognize him as a wrestler. He was in tons of movies. He got a movie coming out. And he says, I found that with depression, one of the most important things you can realize is that you're not alone. You're not the first to go through it. I wish I had someone that at that time who could just pull me aside and say, hey, it's going to be okay. So you see the tough guy syndrome, right? All right. And the Sister Sally. And then next, these are some people that we lost because of depression. Okay, next. All right, if anybody recognizes her, that's Kate Spade. And so she's known for her purses and shoes. Okay, next. Margaret Kidder, people probably recognize her. She played Lois Lane in the original Superman. Okay, next. Oh, if anybody know Soul Train, right? That is Don Cornelius. He suffered from depression, that smiling depression, for years and committed and took his own life. So see, it's not just dumb folks. Okay, next. That is Lucy Gorgon. She was a model and an actress. She was Miss USA, was just at a party, having a great time, went home and committed suicide. Okay, and that was our Miss USA. If anybody recognizes her, that's T.T. Branch. If anybody is familiar with Jessie Hair Care Products, she was a co-owner of that hair care products, and she committed suicide. Next, Lee Thomas Young. He was a Disney actor, and then he got a reoccurring role on what is it called? Yes, Rizzoli and Isles. Yeah. All right, next. All right, and that's Twitch from the Ellen DeGeneres show. He committed suicide this year, I think. Was just doing a TikTok video with his family, his wife, his children, went to a hotel and committed suicide. And then the last one, if you don't recognize him, Ian Alexander, his name is not very common, but that's Regina King's son that just committed suicide. Okay? Okay, so I wanted to leave you with this, some tips for managing your mental health. So just like we have, just like we want to do prevention for our physical health, we can also do that as well for our mental health and managing our stress. So the first thing is, next, okay, there we go. Prayer and ritual that support your health. These can be source of strength and comfort you. Next, and then recognize signs of excessive stress. These can include difficulty sleeping, being easily angered, irritable, feeling depressed, and low energy. Now, when we get angry, when we get depressed, see, we're not going to look like we just rolled out of bed and fell apart. We're going to look well put together, but we're going to be really angry because I don't want to be bothered. And so sometimes that is a sign of our stress. All right, next. Be able to set some goals and priorities. Decide what must be done and what can wait. Say no. Okay. Say no to new tasks if it feels like it's too much. Okay, next. Show compassion for yourself. Note what you have accomplished at the end of the day, not what you didn't. So a lot of times we're familiar with the to-do list, and we can have a list that's a mile long, but we don't stop to say, well, what was to done? What did we accomplish? And be able to say, let me pat myself on the back for all the things I have got done today. All right, next. Schedule time for relaxing. So make sure that you schedule some relaxing time that can, it could be anything from prayer, mindfulness, breathing exercises, yoga, tai chi, coloring, reading a book, anything that you find relaxing. And, sometimes we go. We need to take that time out to just sit and chill. Somebody said, oh, I feel bad if I'm not doing anything. Also, honey, chilling is a verb. All right, next. Go outside, try to get some natural sunlight for at least 30 minutes each day. That's some free vitamin D. That's a free antidepressant. Okay, next. Volunteer for things that you care about in your community. So it could be anything from a community garden, school, library, place of worship, and etc. Next. And then travel, go to different places, see new cultures, meet new people. Next. And limit electronics before bed. So we love our electronics, but that nice blue light that makes it so bright and wonderful, what happens is, especially if you can't sleep, it tricks the brain in thinking it's still daytime. And so the body is not producing enough melatonin for you to be able to feel that nice, relaxed feeling before you go to sleep. So especially if you have a hard time going to sleep, you may want to try reading a book, not on a tablet, but just reading an old-fashioned book, listening to some soothing music or any kind of relaxation activities instead. Okay, next. Take a break. It's okay to step away. It's okay to take a mental health day. You don't need a diagnosis to ask, only the courage to ask, to say, hey, I need to take a PTO. I need a break, okay? And you certainly don't need to apologize or feel shame about it. Okay. And next, at this time, we can open it up for questions and answers. Ooh, and a hush went over the crowd.
Not only people think that the loss is only dealing with death, but once you stop working, that is a term of loss. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I had to deal with. Once I retired, mm-hmm. It was kind of hard for me to just get adjusted to, my normal schedule every day. And I talked with you about it. And mm-hmm. So I think that a lot of people don't realize that that's a big loss. Once mm-hmm. you retire, you've been doing something for 30 years, and now all of a sudden you up and you don't do it anymore. Right. So I think that's something that we do need to consider. Mm-hmm. And then one of the PowerPoints you mentioned in there about men not crying, and the two guys, I wrote their names out, Hank and
Jack and Hank. Yes.
Jack, yeah. Men are conditioned as little mm-hmm. boys that boys don't cry. Their daddy's always telling them, toughen up, whatever. And I think that's really sad. And mm-hmm. so having been a teacher, if kids got hurt, I never told boys don't cry. And somebody may make fun. I said, no, if he wants to cry, let him cry. It's mm-hmm. okay. And that's, a big stigma, especially in the Black community, mm-hmm. that mental health, we don't discuss it. Everything, we just go to God in prayer about everything. But God gave us mental health professionals like you. So I would just encourage everybody that mental health is very important, and it is needed. And it doesn't make you quote unquote a crazy person because you seek
Right.
out mental support. And thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, if I didn't have to wear my pink shirt, I was going to wear "You Can Have Jesus" and a therapist too. I mean, you go see a doctor, and you still have Jesus, right? You can go get your teeth cleaned, go see a dentist, and you have Jesus. Okay. I'm just saying. Yes, right up here in the front.
Yes, it was an excellent presentation. I do appreciate it. But I'm just wondering, any of the data that you've seen, do you believe, or even if you've seen in your own practice, that social media has contributed to people being less social, interacting? You know, I was thinking to myself the other day, I says, wow, a friend or colleague reached out via text. And I'm thinking, for the time that you wrote that text, you could have picked up the phone and found out how I was really doing.
Right.
Because I do call people. I try to text less unless it's something important or I'm,
Yeah.
you know, being pulled away. But do you believe any of the data that's out there, especially like from Y2K going forward? So we're talking from 2000 to now, which has been 23 years, where people are becoming more and more disconnected.
Yes.
Even our children.
Yes.
Disconnected in communicating, writing, speaking, especially speaking.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure if you've seen anything like that.
Yeah, so since then, since social media, chat rooms, texting, emails, our nonverbal communication has almost overtook our verbal. And then, of course, with us, the pandemic made it even worse because then we were separated. I'm seeing a lot of young people, because I work with teenagers and adults, especially probably the 18 to 26-year-olds. They have a hard time face-to-face communication. They can easily go on social media, and I could tell you off on social media. But when I have to come and have to do a job interview, they're scared to death. Or they have to meet somebody's parents, they don't know what to say. So social anxiety has rose a lot. But, you know, because of social media, there's this anonymity. I don't have to face you. I don't have to see the reaction. You know, I can talk to you. I can text you all day long, you know. So, yeah, it has been a decline to the face-to-face interaction. And it's causing a lot of anxiety. Lots of anxiety. Good question. Oh, come on. Impending doom. Yeah, so a lot of times I see that with people that has been traumatized. And so it can cause a lot of anxiety because I'm expecting something bad to happen, or something bad has happened in my past, and so I'm expecting it to keep happening over and over again. Yes.
How young can you be to be depressed? Like, how young can you be?
How young? I've seen it. So I worked in a lot of different areas before I was in private practice. But we have seen, when I worked at Baptist, we've seen as young as 6 coming in for inpatient services. And they are, we have a increase of African American boys from age 5 to 11 trying to commit suicide. So I would even scoot it down to 5.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the things that we doesn't deal with, and that's death. We don't deal with death very well. And we as Christians, we say that God's gonna heal us in his own time. That's been a saying for us for years. But we need to get help. I lost a baby at 3 months. It ended in a divorce because we both needed help. We wouldn't talk about it. And then it was until I started to losing siblings. I lost 6 siblings, right, one right behind the other. Then my parents. And then I knew then it was time for me to get help. Then I started talking back to my ex-husband, and I finally got him to get help. Now we can talk this thing out about that baby that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
We can talk about it now. My son is 50 years old. He just told me a couple of days ago, Mama, I was 6 years old. That baby was in my room. He said, I never said anything to you because he said, I would hear you crying all the time. He said, but I needed counseling. He said, I had to struggle in school. He said, because I could just see the face on that baby when y'all lift that baby up and she was dead. But a lot of time, our children need counseling. I talk to young people now, and they need a lot of counseling. And it results into suicide because they don't get the counseling that they need. They just need somebody to hear them. Just like us, I needed help. And I finally realized, you have to realize that you need help other than God, just like you say about that shirt. We need help other than God, and just to have somebody to talk to and express ourselves. And for years, it was just like I was weighed down. But until I got the help that I needed. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. A lot of people are ashamed because they have to go and get help. But it's nothing to be ashamed of. It just releases you. That's all it does.
Absolutely.
It releases you. And I thank you so much because I've learned a lot this morning that I can go back and I can help family members with. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I had a client, he was 22-year-old black male, and he was feeling suicidal. In fact, he had the pill bottles. He already had a plan. His dad was in the living room. He was in his bedroom. He called his sister who was in Orlando and was telling her, hey, I'm feeling suicidal. I got the pills in my hand. I'm just going to take all these pills. And she said, well, where's Dad? He said, he's in the living room. So she's in Orlando. She calls Dad in the living room to say, hey, do you know what's going on with your son? And he said, well, no, I don't check on him. He's 22 years old. And she said, he's about to take these pills. Yeah. And so he finally came and got help. So, yep, you're right. You know, we don't deal, we just internalize a lot of stuff, you know. Yeah. Good question. Yes, ma'am. Oh, Joyce, I'm sorry.
What is your advice when you see someone spiraling or you see the shift in their personality and you feel some of the symptoms that you explained happening? Of course, pray and minister and give the right encouraging words. I've even gone as far as telling a dear person, someone very close to me, you can even change your name. I'll go with you. I'll call and hold the phone. I'll stand by. How far, or there's some key words or something to say, or I don't know, just something. If they're not going to call the hotline, how much more can we do as someone on the outside?
I know, because there's no one word. Everybody's so individual, so we wish there was a magic word that we could say. Sometimes just being present, and I think people underestimate just being there for a person, and I don't have to say anything, but just be present. And sometimes to say, hey, you know what? Let's get some help. Let me walk you to get some help. Let's find some help for you, you know, and get them to the appropriate place. Yeah. We wish there was. I have a broken magic wand in my office. It just don't work. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Phyllis Brody. I think a lot of our problems when it comes to our family and children is a lack of communication. And that's vital. And I'm thinking about, I've had three people that came to me that want to commit suicide. 3 people. And depression is very real. And so I took like you say, Jesus might not be the answer for some things, but in a lot of things he is. And so we can't just erase that. You know, we can't. You know, because really he is the greatest healer. And I think that when we focus on him, even though we are left alone, a lot of people are left alone these days by themselves. I'm one of those people that have problems wherein I can be your friend as long as you want me to be your friend, but when you start moving away from me, I move away. And so it's people like myself that are lonely, we're by ourselves, and they are the people who sometimes can be depressed, and you never know it.
Right.
You know, until you see the symptoms. So I think that people need to get together and communicate more. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do, because it's very, very important.
Absolutely. Probably one of the reasons why children try to commit suicide is because of relationships. You know, there's a disconnect with relationships.
What I've noticed in my time in the military, which is over 20 years, and doing counseling, that once someone goes to a mental health facility, then laughter and chastisement, and now you have to document that. And how do you tell that person to help them to realize that they still can go there and be a normal person, get past that aura of you crazy,
Right.
you the cuckoo?
So
Am
thank
I
you for
clear
your-
with you?
Yes, thank you for your service.
You welcome.
Thank you for your service. So I got you because I'm military myself, and so I know what you're talking about. I have a lot of